There we go.
Looks much good.
Better. So this is ACI 11, class 9. So we're almost finished. We have tonight's class and next week's class. And then that will be the end of ACI 11. The week after that will be debate practice. And so we'll be debating actually all of the questions for the final exam. If you're doing the coursework, and if you're not doing the coursework, it will be a very good review. And then the week after that, we will be starting ACI 12, and John, who teaches with me, we were teaching these classes together, and then he took over Wednesday night meditation classes, and I kept going with Tuesday ACI. And after the debate practice, we're going to switch places. So he will take over and teach ACI 12, so it will continue every Tuesday night. Same format, 5 weeks, and then a midterm debate practice, and then 5 more weeks and a final debate practice. And I'm going to be teaching, it's actually a really interesting meditation module that was developed down at Diamond Mountain, our head university down in Arizona. And in Tibetan, it's called Bodhisattva, which means to light your practice on fire, set your practice on fire, or put rocket fuel into your meditation practice. Still working out the smoother way to say that in English without saying all those words. But I know when I taught it before, we called it turbocharging your meditation, but that was a little hard to roll around on the tongue. And really what it does is it gives you some really incredible skills for meditation practice. This Sangha has been becoming quite adept at shamatha practice, which is beautiful, and we've had many students here just finished a retreat with Doug Wienhoff, who came and taught again, and we've already booked him for next year, haven't we, Leonardo? For a Dzogchen retreat, actually, which is going to be very exciting. And we do shamatha practice on the weekends and stuff, and that's a beautiful platform. But as we've been learning in ACI 11, it's as important to know where to put your mind, you know, what to focus it on. And the Bodhisattva series of meditation classes really help you load up your toolbox of practices. So Tuesday will continue to be philosophy nights, and Wednesday really is more practice. It really is about diving deep. So highly recommend both of them, but whatever everyone can do. So, when were you in this course with us? Was it ACI 11? I can't remember the last time you were with us.
ACI 11, yes, right.
Do you remember what class 7?
Yeah,
okay,
class
so just a
7.
couple classes ago. Were we still talking about the perfection of joyous effort? Yeah. I think we were.
Yes, I think so.
Okay, so we have moved on to the perfection of meditation, of concentration. And what's been interesting is that Master Shantideva has really told us nothing about how to meditate. He's told us where to meditate, and he's told us what we should do to prepare to meditate. But then he's segued into what we should meditate on, which is really quite stunning. And last week we talked about the fact that we need to do this practice that they call in Tibetan called Dakshen Yamba. Remember that? Which means to treat others and yourself the same. And he dissected that by saying it's about treating other people's pain as if it were your own pain. And remember, we had this homework about feeling for their happiness as much as your own, and we were tasked with planting happiness in other people's minds, right? And then just watch and see how you feel when you see the results of that. And to really look to work for others as much as you would yourself. That's the whole practice. And of course, the first objection that comes up in our minds is that we couldn't possibly because there's too many people. How could we help others? How could we be everybody else? There's just too many people to help. And so I think what a lot of us do at that point is shut down. If I can't help all of them, I'm not going to help anyone. But that's actually not the argument either. Master Shantideva's argument to combat our own ignorant grasping to this, no, I can't help everybody because there's too many of you, is to give us the argument that even though we can't feel someone else's pain, like if Leonardo cut her finger, I don't bleed, right? But with practice, we can become good at being as intolerant of someone else's suffering as we are our own. I got the worst paper cut today from cardboard. I hate cardboard paper cuts. They're even more painful than paper cuts, which are pretty painful. And I don't like that feeling. But I have to get as not liking that feeling when it happens to someone else as it does to me, you know? Actually, I'm pretty good with paper cuts because as soon as someone cuts themselves, I can just almost feel it, you know? It's like nails on a chalkboard, right? Yeah, we kind of all know the pain of that. But that's a good example. Like, we should get as good at recognizing others people's distress as just as much as we would viscerally understand that paper cut, like how much that paper cut hurts them, even if you can't feel it in that moment, right? And that's what Master Shantideva was trying to get us to last class, and really to explain that when we say, no, I can't help others because they're not me, there's too many of them, I can't feel their pain. He says it's arbitrary. We've drawn a line around ourselves. We've built this boundary that says, I stop here and I have enough to do to look after this. That's what we think. And he says that is just a decision. That's just arbitrary. You can decide differently. You can expand that boundary to include, he said, start with one other person, but if you can do it with one, you can do it with many. So, you know, that's where he's getting to. And he's going to actually be persistent in battling our objections in the beginning of this class too. So Daksha Nyampa is one beautiful method for cultivating bodhicitta, which is this infinite altruistic love that we're trying to really, really develop as a bodhisattva. This burning drive, this passion to look after others as much as you would possibly look after yourself. And tonight we're actually going to go on to a second method also. He's going to give us these two great tools for cultivating compassion. So, how we were doing the early classes, and we're back to it now, is that Geshe Michael translated the Guide to the Bodhisattva's Way of Life in beautiful English. It's like poetry. So when I read this, it's good to just be in a little bit of a contemplative position. So just assume, get comfortable, put your paper down, put your pens down, get straight in your spine. It's not very long. Take a deep breath, close your eyes, and listen to how Master Shantideva explains to us about being beyond oneself. Suppose you say the reason why you don't protect them is that their pain doesn't hurt you. Why then do you protect yourself from future pain as it doesn't hurt you either? Okay, you can open your eyes. So he's still on this topic of convincing us, or not even convincing us, of trying to get us to see the illogic, the fact that it doesn't make sense to not see someone else's pain as much as it would hurt us, right? And he's trying to get us to see that just because someone else's pain doesn't do anything to us, that it doesn't seem to hurt us, that that shouldn't be the reason to not help them. So he's going to take that argument. Someone else's pain doesn't affect you, therefore you shouldn't help them. He's saying if that's the case, then he's going to give us 3 examples why we shouldn't protect ourselves from future pain that we're going to feel, because that person isn't here yet. And we can't feel that pain right now, right? So it's the same argument. Like the future us is more distant than the other person. Leonardo's sitting 4 feet away from me. My future life, maybe, I don't know, 1,000 years from now. You know, we don't know, right? Like it's just, but it's farther than 4 feet away from me, right?
Mm-hmm.
So he's answering us now. He's taking this debate to a refined level into what we call a prasangika. And if you've been studying with us for a while, you'll know that this particular school that we're not only in the middle way, the Madhyamika, but we're in the Madhyamika prasangikas, which actually means sarcastic logic, actually. So it's how you debate with someone and you get them to realize wisdom by asking them a sarcastic question. And it's sarcastic, not to ridicule them to feeling wrong, but to ridicule them out of their delusions, out of their illusions, and to just ask such a sarcastic question that they cannot help but see the logic of the wisdom, is how a prasangika works. So he's going to give us 3 examples of why protect yourself from future pain, since that can't affect you right now either. The first one is, in the morning, if you know that you're going to get yelled at by your boss at work, if you know that's going to happen, you might call in sick because you don't want to be yelled at, right? So you're anticipating that, you're anticipating this pain, which you're not feeling right now. You're not being yelled at right now, but you're calling in sick because you're helping the person who's here from not experiencing that, you think, right? And Master Shantideva is saying that's illogical. If you're not going to help someone else because you can't feel their pain, why are you helping you in the afternoon? Because you can't feel you in the afternoon right now, you in the morning. Okay, that's the first one. The second one, and this is an American example that Geshe gives, but in the States they have something called a 401k. I think it's like an RRSP, like a savings plan, but it's like an automatic withdrawal from your paycheck. I don't know that we have the equivalent. We have unemployment insurance, but we don't necessarily get that. I think a 401k you do automatically get in the future. Maybe it's like a pension.
Yeah, we get ours deducted and then it gets. Yeah.
But is it called a 401k up here?
No,
I don't
no,
think
it's
so.
called pension.
It is. It's Canada
pension.
CPP, right?
Mhm.
Canada pension. Okay.
Yeah.
So same thing. Master Shantideva says, you know, with something like that, like a CPP or a 401k, you're automatically putting money away for someone who's going to enjoy that 30, 40, 50 years from now. And why should you take care of that person who is someone else other than you right now? So you should go tell your boss to stop taking the 401k deductions, because that's someone whose pain or happiness you can't feel right now, if you're going to use this logic, right? That's the second one. And then the third one, he goes even further, you know, because he's talking about future lives, right? He says your future life is definitely someone who's very, very far away from you right now. That person isn't even born yet, right? You have no relationship to them. So why are you trying to collect good karma and take care of someone who could be born millions of light years away, and he's going to be a totally different being from who you are right now? You cannot feel that being's pain. You can't. It's crazy, is what Master Shantideva says. Okay? So if you are following along in the homeworks, he just gave you the answer to homework question number 1 in that response. The question is, why is it wrong to say that we don't have to protect others from pain since we cannot feel pain themselves? And so basically what he's giving you is the 3 arguments for, he's taking it to the ridiculous extreme, right? That's what he's doing. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So let's just quickly contemplate his next verse. which is still going to be trying to get us to really, really get this point. Okay? So let's get back into a contemplation. Your idea that you do so because you think to yourself that you will have to experience it is all wrong, because the person who has already died is one person, and the one who has taken birth is quite another altogether. So he's still saying the same thing, right? Like he's trying to really get us to understand that and actually I kind of gave the punchline away by giving the example before of Leonardo sitting 4 feet away from me, whereas my future life could be many, many, many feet away from me, right? So that's what he's saying in this particular verse. And yeah. The reason he gives that experience or that example is that is why we do good karma, right? For the future us. We do good, right? That's the whole method. That's the whole premise of karma. You plant the seed now to be able to experience a perfect enlightenment later, or however it goes, right? Like whatever you're trying to, once you get really good at understanding seeds and cause and effect, you are actively planting good seeds so that the future you can enjoy it. And quite frankly, if you're in this room, your past you planted some pretty good seeds that you're reaping right now. And you don't even know that person. I don't remember that person. But he or she must have been pretty cool for me to be sitting here right now. Way cooler than I am now for me to be sitting here right now. So, that is how it works. But Master Shantideva is saying, if you use the argument that you're not helping just because you can't experience it, then this doesn't make any sense either. Like, why do good deeds? Why prepare for the future, right? Okay. Yeah. So, and if you are coming from a nihilistic point of view, that is the argument, isn't it? Like the future me can't, there is no future me, so why would I do anything good now to help that person? We're not coming from that point of view. So, okay, one more quick one before we leave this particular topic, and this actually refers to something we talked about last class. And suppose that any particular pain were only something that particular one had to care about. If this were the case, then a pain in the foot would be nothing for the hand. Why then does it care? So he's talking again. Last time he gave us the argument about if we're going to say there's too many people out there, he gave us the argument of our own body, how there's so many parts that need attending to. If you got a thorn in your foot, your hand would go to help your foot. But if you're giving the argument that I can't help you because you're over there, then he said, your foot is over there. Why would your hand help your foot? Right? That was the argument he gave us last time. And he's just repeating it again because he's talking about the fact that he's trying to get us to understand that we do decide. We draw borders around what it is that we think we will serve, right? And he's trying to really show us how illogical that is. So, because really, in your own body, there's no question. If you had a thorn in your foot, of course you're going to reach down and take it out or have it attended to. You're not going to leave it there, right? And basically where he's going to, he hasn't quite gotten there yet, but he also is trying to make us see that other people are no different to us than our foot is to our hand, right? And but before he gets to the punchline, he's going to give us one more layer of complexity to this argument. Okay, are you ready? Are we only what we control. The things we call a stream or else a collection are unreal. They are like a string of things or an army. That of one with suffering doesn't exist at all. So who is he who could stop it? Since the one who owns the pain does not exist, there can be no distinctions among the many. Okay, he's kind of dancing around the 9th chapter, which is all about wisdom, actually, about emptiness. But we're not going there quite yet. What he's talking about here, we have to define a couple of things here. He's talking about two parts to a whole. And one part is in Tibetan say tsokpa. Tsokpa. Tsokpa means a collection of parts. And the second concept that he wants us to understand is zumpa. Say zumpa.
Zumpa.
Zumba means unreal or fake or artificial. Okay? So he wants us to understand that we're talking about tsokpas and we're talking about zumbas. So remember what the objection is. The objection that he's trying to get us to not make is that I don't worry about other people's pain because I can't feel it directly. Okay? So he's saying, right, well then your hand shouldn't worry about your foot because that's something that the hand cannot feel the pain in the foot. Okay? But what we say when we get that argument is, no, but wait, my foot and my hand are all one part of one they're the collection. They're a tsukpa, right? The hand and the foot and my legs and my arms and my torso, and like all of these parts, it's the whole collection that is me. It's not you. Like the foot is a part of my collection, right? And Master Shantideva says that's a zumba. That's a lie. That's artificial. And it's as artificial, and he wants us to learn a third word, say mak. He says it's as artificial as a mak. And a mak is an army, an infantry. And in ancient India, an army was, it included elephanteers and archers, and it was the whole infantry, right? The whole, and then when we think of, okay, modern day army, you might think of the soldiers and the tanks and the, whatever, right? You've got all of these collection of people and things, right? And we call it a mak, we call it an army, but who decides? Like, is one soldier an army? Is it only when you have them all gathered that it's an army? Like, when you think about it, an army is a concept, right? There is no thing that you could say, that everyone could say, oh, there's an army. Like, we can define a group of soldiers and we might think they're in the army, but when you think army, right? So it's as unreal as that, okay? There is nothing from, even if you were to see a soldier in his fatigues carrying a rifle, there would be nothing in him that would say, I am army, right? There isn't. And if you do define him as being that, then that's coming from you. And the reason is that if someone, like say an ant walked in the room and saw the same being, same shapes and colors, they would not see that as even soldier, right? They would just see them as big blob of color or whatever, obstacle to get around, right? So like that, what Master Shantideva says is this whole concept of a collection of parts as being me, as being anything, is as fake, as zumba, as unreal, as a mak, as an army. And he uses the army as his explanation. But you could use, last week we were and Zoe gave a really beautiful explanation of the pen as a metaphor for karma and emptiness. Well, Master Shantideva is going so far this time as to say a pen is a mak. A pen is a zumba, A pen is, it's just a collection of parts, right? It's just a collection of shapes and colors. And we label it pen. We are forced to see it as pen. But that's because of our karma. That's because of the causes we put into place. That's coming from our side, not from the object that you're writing with right now, right? Okay? So those are the words that he needs us to understand. So a tsukpa is a collection in present time, and in that sense, it's a static thing, okay? But that contemplation we just did, remember, he started talking about a stream of things. He said things that we call a stream or else a collection are unreal. So we just dealt with a collection, how that's unreal. But a stream is gyu, it's called gyu in Tibetan. And the stream that he's talking about through time is another way we define ourselves, right? We define ourselves like me at 3, me at 8, me at 18, me at 28, me at 38. That's a stream of me, right? And the other word for that is trenwa. Say trenwa. Trenwa means a string of anything, and the nicest way to think of, or the easiest way to think of that is like a rosary, a mala, like a string of beads would be a trenwa. And that's another nice way to think about the stream of you. Like each bead could represent a chronological point, right, in the stream that we call us. And we don't even actually define, like when we're talking about someone's life, we only define it after it's over, don't we? Like we have a start date and an end date. But you don't actually think of it as a stream until you've got the start date and the end date, right? Like, isn't that interesting? So the boundary between ourselves in the present moment and the boundary of looking at our whole life as a string of moments from birth to death, both of those are artificial. Both of those are, it's a concept. We've labeled it, right? And how we see it comes from us. In fact, they don't break it down here. Our Master Arya Nagarjuna actually does this a lot to us with time. He'll say that there's no such thing as a day. You can't experience a day in the present moment, can you? All you can experience is the present moment. It's not a day until, like, we call it a day when we go to sleep. But even that's arbitrary, isn't it? Like, we don't all go to sleep at the same time. And the sun comes up, and we label 24 hours as a day. But where in that 24 hours is the day? Right? Like, and from a clock, we say 12 to 12. But 1 to 1 is 24 hours, 5 to 5 is 24, you know what I mean? Like, where is the day? And you actually can't say that, like, today, I can say yesterday was Monday, but, we label it, and that we can say there was a day yesterday, but right now we're in the moment, right? Do you see how it's a construct, right? Like, it's conceptual. Is it functional? Yes, absolutely. I set my I don't even wear a watch. I always point to my bracelet, but it's not even a watch. But we set our watch to, set meetings and all of that stuff. And when it functions, I'm not saying it doesn't function, but we've decided, we've set, right? It's a habit. And we get attached to this whole concept of ourselves as a collection of parts, or ourselves as moments in a string of experiences, and we decide that that's me, right? And it's arbitrary, and it's just a bad habit to be selfish. Master Shantideva says there's no logical reason for it. So that is the answer to homework 2, which asks about giving examples of parts of a whole So we're talking about the different parts of a body, we're talking about the stream of a person at different points of their life, and the metaphor we're given is a string of beads. Okay? So then Geshe-la asks, can they coexist? Can a definition of yourself, of what it used to be, what you thought it was, and the definition of yourself, which is actually pretty narrow, right? The definition of ourselves as a collection of our parts or as a stream in time. Can that and the definition of yourself, which is wider, which is broader, could they coexist? And Geshe-la says actually, ultimately, not only do they coexist, but it's kind of interesting. The best thing you could possibly do for yourself is to expand yourself out. Like if all you're doing is try to serve this narrow concept of the collection and its parts, you're not going to get very far. The only way you're going to reach Buddha paradise for yourself, enlightenment for yourself, is to do this, to see others as you and to help them. Like you actually need these others in order to reach your Buddha. You need to expand yourself, your concept of yourself, to others. So it's actually very convenient that way. Geshe-la says it is definitely having your cake and eating it too. And so he says it's very, very convenient. And the thing is, the more you practice this, the more you try to see others as yourself and expand yourself, the more pleasant your life is going to be. The better your practice is going to get. And even normal pleasures, like eating cake, is going to be even yummier than before. And the more you practice good karma, the sweeter your mind stream is going, your mind is going to be. And the more you will just naturally take care of others to the best way. And it's just this upward spiral. This is what His Holiness the Dalai Lama calls enlightened self-interest. So it's interesting, it's kind of ironic that the best way to get everything we possibly want for me is to forget about the me, is to let go of the me, and to look after everybody else. I haven't read Lama Marut's new book yet because the book launch is happening this summer, but it's called Be Nobody. The book is called the Be Nobody Tour. Lama Marut, who's one of our lamas up there, is coming through Vancouver. He lives in Australia now, but he's coming through Vancouver on the weekend of July 10, 11, 12 on a book tour called the Be Nobody Tour. And I have a feeling that a lot of what he's going to be talking about is kind of like this. You know, like let go of the self, let go of the thinking you're somebody. Be nobody, which isn't a very popular concept, right? Who wants to be a nobody? But to truly be nobody is to be somebody, to really be able to make a difference and to really help. So, okay. By the way, they call this the easy path. In Tibetan, the word is Delam. The easy path to bliss, the simple path to happiness, because when you do expand yourself, you're actually not working for others, you're just working for yourself. So it's not hard. I mean, it's not hard for us if we have a thorn in our foot to take it out with our hand, right? So once we expand ourselves out, it's not hard to look after this other part of you, right? So, and you know, this isn't just the physical, it just isn't the physical thorn in the foot. This has to do with mental afflictions also. If you see that someone you know is having a problem with jealousy or anger or low self-esteem, you do have to do something about it. Because you know what? Sooner or later, that affliction is going to affect you. It's just like if you leave that thorn unattended in your foot, it will fester and get infected. And eventually it will poison the whole system, right? If you let a mental affliction go on that you're observing and you're seeing is causing suffering and you don't do anything about it, it eventually will affect you. It will poison your environment, right? So, It's just practical. You know, even beyond the be the good person, be a bodhisattva, this is the higher calling thing. It's just practical, right? When you think about it that way. There was a question that came up in this original lung, especially when Geshe started to talk about, you know, we owe it to ourselves to help our friends with their mental afflictions. A question came up with, well, as a Dharma student, isn't that something we should leave to the professional psychologists and psychiatrists? And like, who am I to help someone else with their mental challenges, right? But you have to remember something in Buddhism. They do always say that you must help to the best of your ability, to the best of your capacity. And there is a Bodhisattva vow that says that you should not teach a certain form of emptiness to someone who is unprepared. And what they mean by that is if it's someone who'd be totally freaked out and would turn away from understanding any of this, by the way you told it to them, you're not allowed to. So you have to ascertain, you have to actually make a judgment call. And we're also always told never judge, but you do have to make a judgment call to the best of your ability. When your highest of intention meets the best of your ability, and in your highest estimation you think this person can hear what you have to say, then it's okay to go ahead. And, you know, as I said in the last class, actually 2 classes ago, was it Solange that asked me this question about how do I know when I can help? Because what if I don't know the right thing to say? Right? There was that question. And this is actually the answer to her question. You have to do the best thing according to the place and time that you're in. And if you do, then it will always help. Because her question was, and it was all about skillful means too, like how do I know when I have skillful means? Well, the thing is, you're not going to know actually until you have it. So in the meantime, we practice as best we can, to the best of our judgment, with the best of intentions. And then with practice, you get better at it. Okay? By the way, Geshe says that Dharma students are infinitely better specialists than conventional care because you know the real causes for things. If you can teach someone the real cause for something, you know, we've just finished a series of karma workshops here, the real cause of money, the real cause of love, and the real cause of health. And actually, as everyone who came realized, all of my solutions were interchangeable, weren't they? For all of them, because really it's all about understanding why things happen, not how. The health, the money, the love are all delivery systems. They're all how, right? But if you understand where the world is coming from and can teach that to someone else, that's better than any psychology, PhD, you know, blah, blah, that anyone could be given. So Master Shantideva says that you have to help others with their pain and the certain causes of pain. See, if you see someone doing something or behaving in a way that you know for sure is going to cause them pain, to help them stop that is no different than giving them a Band-Aid if they cut themselves. Because if they're doing bad karma, it's going to hurt them more than this cardboard paper cut I've got. This is going to heal. It's already feeling better than it did an hour ago when I did it, you know? But if someone is really not understanding, and you'll get this, right? Your friends will come to you with the same complaint. Maybe different person, maybe different circumstances, but the same complaint. This happened to me again, right? And so if you can help them with why that happens, not how it happens, but why, then you can help them for all their future lives, not just in the next 15 minutes, right? So like that. Now, finally, Master Shantideva has gotten tired of us continuing to say, no, I can't do it. Too many people can't feel their pain. Master Shantideva gets a little impatient and he says, you know what? I've heard all of your arguments. All of your arguments. Just stop arguing. Just give it up and admit that you have to take care of other people's suffering as much as you would your own, because they are you. And it's a lot easier if you gave up on the idea of you first. This is the whole Amaji thing, right? Like, get you out of the way. The problem with selfishness is the self, actually. And so if we can just get that self out of the way, right, we could get on with it. So, but that's such a hard, easy to do, hard to say. Easy to do, no other way. Hard, easy to say, hard to do. If you give up on the me first, then there won't be any problem to take care of others. So the reverse is, he says, you know, if you're going to stop helping others, you might as well just stop helping yourself too. Because really, all you're going to do is go after suffering. Okay? If you're deciding that other people's pain is not your problem, then stop taking care of your own pain would be the logical thing to do. So he's flipping that around, right? Yeah. Because he had said, whatever pain in the world that you see, you must stop it, as if it were your own. So now he's saying, if you're not going to do that, then don't even bother stopping your own pain, right? That's the logic. Yeah. And you know, we do make a conscious decision. We do decide that our compassion will reach to, you know, sometimes our compassion reaches to our partner, or to our family, or to our neighborhood, maybe even to our country. But there's always a border, isn't there? There's always a point where our mind goes, but that's too far. I can't go there. They're not me. And Master Shantideva says, no, no, no. That's arbitrary. All of it is arbitrary. And none of that is fixed. And all of it can be changed. Not immediately. It's not even this whole thing about, you know, I don't stop here. Well, of course I stop here, you know. But if we stop thinking of the self so much and get of our own way, we can start thinking of others more and more and more until it becomes natural. And then it becomes uncomfortable to not think about them, actually, you know? And we can we can keep expanding ourselves out. It's pretty cool. You know, they say, Geshe-la and Master Shantideva, they always say, you do not have to limit yourself to what you always did before. And he likes to remind us, you know, think about the first time you were romantically head over heels in love with someone. And for a brief period, right, you stretched your envelope. Right? And that's what happens, right? And you're trying to make them as happy as you would make yourself happy. And he says, imagine doing that for more than that honeymoon period of being in love. Imagine about doing that with everybody all the time. It's possible, and that's where we're going. Okay? Oh, I skipped over a whole contemplation. Let's go back. This is called the power of habit. Okay, we're going to do one more contemplation here. This is from Master Shantideva. By accustoming yourself to the idea you can learn to think of a few drops of semen and blood that belongs to another person as being yourself, even though there is no such thing at all. Why then do you say you cannot think of these bodies of other people as being yourself as well? There isn't any difficulty in deciding the bodies of others are your own body too. Okay. So what this argument is that if you think of your own body, we think of ourselves, right? They say that we are born because of a combination of a sperm meeting an egg, right? And so he's saying like a few drops of semen and blood, and we identify that as me. And material, physical matter from two other people who are not you becomes you, right? Totally different people from you. And you've decided that the result of this stuff, right, is going to be you. And that's a habit. Thinking of it that way is a habit. It's just a force of habit. And he's using this very sort of kind of dramatic example to try and get us to understand that another person's body is no different than these two other bits of other people that we now call ourselves, right? So that's all. It's just about stretching the envelope and not being limited to how we identify ourselves. And he says, how we identify ourselves is just a matter of habit. So we've been talking this whole time about Daksha Nyamba and taking care of others. Because you decide they are you, right? So you're deciding that others and you are exactly the same. That's Daksha Nyamba. Now we're going to move on to the second method that he promised us for developing bodhicitta. Say Dakshin Jewa. Dakshin Jewa. You know what's really interesting is that when we get to the contemplations, they're called Dakshin Nyam Je, exchanging self and others, but we're not given that here. We're given Dakshin Jewa as exchanging myself with another. That's what this, in ACI 11, in your homeworks, it's Dakshin Nyamba as me and someone else are exactly the same, and Dakshin Jewa as exchanging myself and others. So what that means is that you move your self-concern to other people. So it's similar. It's very, very similar to treating yourself and others the same, but now you're moving your self-concern off of yourself and to shift it to other people. Okay, that's the subtle difference. And His Holiness the Dalai Lama says this is the most democratic thing you can do. It's just democratic to take care of others first. And they outnumber you by a couple billion to one. So you should be the last. You should take care of them first. And, really it's about getting to our self-cherishing, right? I don't know, most people in the Western world have a problem with admitting they're selfish. Like, they don't want to be selfish. And they see selfish as something to be that's not good. And yes, ignorant selfishness is not good, but His Holiness has said there is such a thing as enlightened self-interest. Self-interest is different from selfish, right? And actually, this shift, this focus to be concerned for others is this highest democracy. And it is actually the ultimate in enlightened self-interest, interestingly enough. So, really, with this Dakshin Jewa, we're getting to the fact that self-cherishing is not useful. It's wrong. It's not going to help us at all. Okay, here are some beautiful phrases. So let's get into another contemplation. We're going to go into the sources of all happiness and pain. Come to understand that for myself it is wrong, but for others an ocean of fine qualities. Discard completely your habit of taking care of yourself and learn to take on every other being. How far can we go when you think of your hands and such? You do consider them all a part of your body. So why then do you not consider every creature who has a body as being one of the parts of the body of all living kind? That's beautiful, isn't it? Yeah.
Can you say it again?
Yeah. Okay, close your eyes.
Yeah.
It always sounds better when you close your eyes.
Yes.
Come to understand that for myself it is wrong, but for others an ocean of fine qualities. Discard completely your habit of taking care of yourself and learn to take on every other being. How far can we go when you think of your hands and such? You do consider them all a part of your body. So why then do you not consider every creature who has a body as being one of the parts of the body of all living kind? Yeah. Actually, stay in contemplation. We're going to go straight into the next one. Because you have gotten used to it, you are able to think it is mine, of this body, which actually has no self. Why then do you say that you could never learn to think of others as me if you got used to it? If you could, then you would never feel that it was strange or conceited when you worked for others. You don't expect congratulations from yourself whenever you eat your dinner yourself. Okay, this is actually really cute because he's trying to get us to understand. Not only should we want to help others, but right now, like in an ignorant state, when we help others, we expect gratitude, don't we? Like we expect them to appreciate it. We get offended if they don't appreciate it, or perhaps even kind of, I don't know, get mad at us or whatever. You know, that's that giving a homeless person a sandwich and they throw it back at you thing. Mm-hmm. But this is really interesting because if you, not if, in our normal day, we eat at least 2 or 3 times a day, right? We make ourselves fruit and yogurt for morning or a sandwich for lunch or whatever it is. But when you do that, you're not going through, oh, that's so, I'm so nice, I'm making me a sandwich. Wow, this is a really good sandwich. Thanks, me, for making me this really great sandwich. Like, you don't think about that, right? Or even if you take yourself out for lunch, you don't think, thanks for buying me lunch, me. Like you don't actually, we don't do that, right? And I mean, it's silly to even think about that. You don't pat yourself on the back for feeding yourself, right? So the trick is to get, when you're expanding yourself out, you do it without expecting any pat on the back. Why would you? You're just feeding yourself, right? You're just providing for yourself, and you expand yourself out. Okay, it's kind of cool. It prevents getting conceited about helping others, because remember there's always that fine line. Master Shantideva was so clever. Back in one of the other perfections, he did teach us about, you know, how we had to have this divine pride, this self-confidence, right, to go out and do stuff, but we had to be really careful that it didn't turn into conceit, right, the ego. So same thing, like when you start to expand yourself out, it will feel good, and there will be an ignorant part of our mind that will want to take credit for everything that we're doing, and he's saying be careful of that, and because it's no big deal. You're supposed to, especially if you're a bodhisattva and you took vows to help everyone else, you're supposed to be looking out for everyone's happinesses. So when you do, yes, rejoice and be happy about it, but don't get conceited about it. It's no big deal. You're just helping yourself, actually. Ultimately, that is who you're helping. So it's really interesting. I think, though, this tendency.
Should be thanking them then.
Yeah, for the opportunity.
Right.
But no, seriously. But I think this tendency, it is. I've felt it. We all have this tendency to want approval and appreciation, right? Like it's just part of this ignorant mix of humanness that we have because we're so attached still. That's still not getting me out of the way, right? So it's interesting to think about it this way, to help train ourselves out of that mode of thinking. It's really hard to not get appreciation or recognition for something you've done. But why do we even need that when really we've only just helped ourselves, right? Yeah. It's a beautiful way of training our minds. Okay, Master Shantideva is going to get into a little bit of darker stuff here, so I'm going to read the next 2 back to back. Okay, you ready? Then it gets really sweet again. Okay, so this is the slightly darker stuff. The enemy of the body. Because of your attachment for your body, you feel great feelings of fear for little frightening things. This same body, though, is a source of terror. Who, then, wouldn't despise it like they would some hated enemy? We spend our days finding a technique for curing those illnesses of the body, hunger and thirst and the rest. To do so, we slaughter birds and fish and wild beasts of the forests, too. We lay in wait at the crossroads for it for profit and to win the honor others give us. We would even kill our parents, stealing also things belonging to the 3 jewels, passing on to burn for it in hell of endless torment. What wise man could ever then desire this body, care for it, and make it offerings? Who is it that wouldn't see the body as the enemy? Who then not disdain it? Okay. So that's a pretty strong couple of stanzas. And what Master Shantideva is saying is that we have to get over this idea of our bodies as something we need to protect. Because actually, at the end, if you unpack all of your feelings, whenever we're feeling possessive or that we're not getting enough or that we need something else, it really boils down to an attachment to this body, to this physical. Whether we think we're imperfect or not, we are attached to this thing, this object that is actually, your body is actually going to kill you. Your body will eventually kill you. And you, like this body will go, right? But we spend so much time and energy and effort looking after this, right? We clothe it, we feed it, we pamper it as best we can, and we do things for it at the expense of others. Like we push other people away, or we think, oh, well, if I give you this, then I'm going to be thirsty and I'm not going to have enough, or right? Like there's just this kind of twisted sense of this, and even more than physical, the self-cherishing is really, really, really damaging. And Master Shantideva says, your body is your enemy. You're doing all of this stuff for your body, and your body is actually more frightening than a snake running across your path. Because the snake is just running across your path. It's not doing anything, right? Your body is going to get sick, and your body is going to get old, and your body is possibly going to get cancer and arthritis, and eventually it's going to end up in a hospital or an old age home, and it's going to die, right? And we have to leave this body anyways. So why are we so attached to it? Why are we so cherishing of it? Because what we're cherishing when we're cherishing the self is our bodies. Okay? And the reason we can't do exchanging self and others is mainly because we want to take care of this body, not those bodies. Okay? And don't hurt others to help this thing that is your real enemy, is what Master Shantideva says. So part of this Dakshin Jewa, Master Shantideva gives us 5 reasons why our bodies are actually our enemies. And he said it in that contemplation, okay? He said that, we slaughter birds and fish and wild beasts, right, for this body. So we kill animals for this body, like we kill other sentient beings just for this body. We lay traps for other people, like we wait at the crossroads for honor or fame or whatever. We lay traps for other people. We try to win profit and respect. And in order to do that, we would even kill our own parents, is what Master Shantideva is saying. Or we would steal from the 3 jewels. And he doesn't literally mean steal from 3 Jewels Vancouver, although that is not a good thing to do either. But he does mean from the Buddha, the Dharma, the Sangha jewels, right? And that all of those activities, those previous 4, right? Killing animals, laying traps for people, winning profit and respect by doing ill, killing our parents, stealing from the 3 jewels, all of this leads to the hell of no respite. That's actually one of the several hells in Buddhist cosmology, and it's the lowest, and it's the worst. It's called a Vici hell. It's where you go straight to if you do one of those 5 misdeeds, and that's all any of these things will ever lead us to. So why, is what he's saying, okay? And here's the thing. This is really important. Actually, just close your eyes quickly. Thinking of yourself and saying, if I give, what will I have for me? Is nothing but demonic. To think of others and to say, if I use it, all myself, what will I have to give? That is angel dharma. Okay. So remember that example I gave you before of like, oh, I can't give you this because then I'll be thirsty, right? And that's demonic. That's demon. So this is a really cool stanza about angel dharma versus demon mind. And but you know what's interesting is that this is what society teaches us, right? To look after ourselves, to protect what we have, and that the way to get ahead is to like wrap this boundary around ourselves, our savings, our career, our, I mean, there's even, speaking of Lama Rudigan, he's come from the academic world, and he's talked about highly intelligent instructors who don't want their students to know as much as them because they feel they'll be out of a job, right? Like it's such a sick and twisted way of thinking, and yet it is supported by modern society, right? What are the intellectual property and stuff like that, right? Like there's definitely a lot of support for thinking in this wrong way, but that's demon work. That's the devil. That is the devil, actually. Angel Dharma, so the same thing, right? As I'm drinking this, to think, wait a minute, if I drink all of this, what will Leonardo have, right? Like, who will water the plants if I drink all of this, right? You know, things like that. Like if you're, you know, sometimes we, Geshe-la likes to use the example of pizza. I think he likes pizza. So if you have a box of pizza and there's more people than pizza, your natural inclination is to save a piece for yourself before you serve it all out to others, because you think, well, if I give it all, then there won't be any left for me. That's demon mind. Angel mind would be to have that piece of pizza, but then to look around and think, oh, but wait a minute. They don't have any if I eat this. And then you might cut it up into 3 or whatever, right? Because you've already thought about what someone else might need before you. And quite frankly, that's the way to guarantee that you're going to get lots of pizza later, right? So, but that's angel mind, to think, wait, with whatever you have, who could I be sharing this with? Who doesn't have this, right? As opposed to think. And that also, by the way, is the secret to wealth, is to share what you have, or to look for those in need that you could assist with what you have. And to have that intention, right? This angel dharma. And that actually is true democracy, right? Yeah. Instead of thinking, if I give this away, what will I have for myself? To think, if I keep this, what are they going to have? Now, having said that, there are a couple of really important principles. You are not allowed to give away more than you're comfortable giving, like more than your capacity. If you give away and then you regret, that's actually worse than having given away at all. So you're not allowed to give away. Do not ever give away by borrowing from somebody that you can't pay back. Or actually, the example at Diamond Mountain was like people just giving donations on credit cards that they had no possibility of paying back. That's not good. And don't do it. It's, you know, the giving and the intention to give is really, really good. But taking it from a source when that source isn't yours, that's really, really bad. So it's not going to weigh out in your favor. Okay? You're not allowed. You're prohibited by Buddhist logic. The other thing is you have to evaluate, and I love this, what is the best thing for the most amount of people? And Geshe-la gives this funny little example of, like, don't just give away all of your clothes. Because if you're naked running through the streets of Vancouver, you're going to offend more people than you're going to help. And you're going to disturb the minds of many, right? So that's not practical. That is not the thing for the most highest good for the most amount of people, right? And he gives the example of his holy Lama, Ken Rinpoche, who used to be very, very, he appeared to be very frugal. He never wasted his money. He wasn't stingy. He was just very smart. And he wouldn't, like he would buy day-old bread for himself, but when it mattered, he would plan his virtues and execute them very, very well. And he might like squirrel away $10,000, which was a lot of money 30 years ago, or however long. But then he would blow the whole thing on bringing the Dalai Lama to the United States, for example. Or to feed the monks at the monastery. All of it. Clean out the bank account, give it all, He would do things like that. So he was being very practical. He was doing the highest thing for the most amount of people, right? And it's really good to watch high lamas in that way, high teachers in that way. They behave, and sometimes it would seem, like weird, like why don't they do this, that, or whatever? Why don't they buy themselves this, that, or whatever? And it's because that's not their priority. Their priority is what's the best for the most amount of people. And that is in their capacity, right, to do that. So we can take a lesson from that. And it's good to learn from anyone who's like that. So the word for angel in Tibetan is Hla, H-L-A, and the word for devil is Ze. Yeah. So in homework 6, Geshe-la asks us to memorize a couple of verses, and you could memorize it in Tibetan if that speaks to you, and for that I would strongly advise that you listen to this audio, and he'll recite it beautifully. I'm going to give it to you in English. And you know, you could. This is the translation, so you might find that you'll end up paraphrasing it for yourself. But whatever you do, these are 2 beautiful stanzas to memorize. Okay, the first one is, the total amount of happiness that exists in the world has come from wanting to make others happy. The total amount of suffering that exists in the world has come from wanting to make yourself happy. What need is there for any words? The children of the world work for their own sake. The able Buddhas do their labor, the able Buddhas do their labor for the sake of others. Come and see the difference. So this is the stanza. But even if you learn the first part of it, this is an important one. The total amount of happiness that exists in the world has come from wanting to make others happy. The total amount of suffering that exists in the world has come from wanting to make yourself happy. Okay? And then the second part, if you want the long playing dance version, is, which is beautiful, what need is there for any words? Oh, by the way, children of the world means us. We're considered children, and the able Buddhas are the enlightened beings, right? The children of the world work for their own sake. The able Buddhas do their labor for the sake of others. Come and see the difference. But it is those 2 lines to memorize. All the happiness that exists in the world comes from wanting to bring happiness to others. All the pain in the entire world comes from only wanting to find happiness for yourself. That's another way to say that, okay? Here's something really, I found this to be really profound when Geshe-la said this. Every beautiful thing in your world exists because somebody served somebody else. There is no good object in the world that exists which is not a product of somebody taking care of somebody else. We're talking karmically speaking here. There is no such thing. There is nothing that exists that is suffering that was not caused by someone being selfish. So anything that is unhappy, unpleasant in your world is a result of selfishness. And anything that is beautiful and exquisite is the result of serving others. So just to review, in this class, and we started last class, but what Master Shantideva really wants to impress upon us are these 2 methods for really cultivating that altruistic love, that bodhicitta. The one is daksha nyamba, treating yourself and others exactly the same. And the second one is daksha jewa, and this is actually much more radical. This is the one that's saying that any type of suffering that you see in the world, you must go and stamp it out. And any kind of happiness you can create for someone else takes priority. Creating happiness in others is a priority for you. And any kind of suffering that you see has to go. Unacceptable. Okay? So that is radical. You have to remember, Master Shantideva always says, nothing gets harder with practice, and to start small. Start with the small things, okay? Because if your behavior is pure with the little things, the big things will take care of themselves. So, you know, when we talk in Bodhisattva language, we always talk about taking care of all sentient beings, and that just seems kind of so vast and removed from us, right? Well, all sentient beings are your immediate, the people in your, like all the people you immediately dealt with today are your sentient beings. So, for me, it's my mom and dad, it's my cat, it's my boss at work, it's my coworkers, it's all of you. Like, you are my sentient beings, right? And so, these are the people that we need to take care of first. It's actually easier to think in the abstract. Oh, I'm doing this for all sentient beings. And then go yell at your daughter. Or, oh, I'm doing this for all sentient beings. And then be rude to your sister. It's really easy to do that. It's not functional. It's not actually getting you to where you need to go. So, what you're doing now as a bodhisattva is to become an artisan. You are becoming a craftsperson of producing happiness in others. That's your job. What do? You produce happiness, okay, in other people's hearts. Go after the happiness of other people in the world. Make them happy first, and I can guarantee you will be happy. And, try it on a small level. Give away carrots and potatoes, right? Just start small with someone close to you, and Geshe-la guarantees you will get a taste of it, and then it'll get easier, and before you know it, you will become a connoisseur, and you will be dining all the time on gourmet happiness. So that's the whole goal. Yeah. Are you okay, Leonardo?
Yeah, I'm just being moved by the
It's pretty profound.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's all. That's all. Start small. Start working to make somebody else happy. And make it small, and don't expect any reward or don't even, if they thank you, don't say, oh, no. Let them thank you, because that's for them. That's not for you. But don't expect it. Don't get irritated. If that little irritation pops up, catch it. Because it may. I'm not saying it won't. It may. We've got a lot of bad habits to whittle away. But even if you're aware of feeling, oh, I'm a little ticked off that they didn't say thank you. Like, even if you're aware of that, you're doing battle with that affliction. But the better you get at planting little happinesses, the easier the bigger ones are going to come. And you're going to feel happier, so it'll be easier to plant happiness, and so on and so forth, And when you see the mental afflictions, to the best of your capacity, try and help. And that is going to be a little bit harder, because they may lash out at you, or it may not appear to be the results you had expected. Again, have no expectations. It's not about you, right? But if we are helping in a way of, even if you're dealing with a mental affliction, of trying to make them happier, trying to give them the true causes of happiness, then you won't be harming. Your intention. Remember, be pure with your intention on the little things, and the big things will look after themselves. And that, my dears, is class 9. One more to go in this gorgeous, gorgeous course of ACI 11. Any questions?
Actually, I don't have any material with me, so...
Okay, Leonardo will give you do you have access to a computer?
Yes.
Okay, she'll give you the website, the link, and it's all free. You can download it all for free, or you can even just look at it on your computer.
That's what I did. I just went online and printed the pages for tonight.
Yeah. And also there is our two beautiful ducklings aren't here tonight because of another event going on, but Farah, who's usually in class, and Zoe, they do a regular study group up on Main Street at a tea shop called Shakti. Really great teas on Sunday afternoons. Sunday.
Was it Sunday?
I think it's Sunday. Maybe double check with them. Double check with them if it's Saturday or Sunday. I may be wrong. It's one of the weekend days. Maybe because I'm always running into Farah at Shakti. No matter what day of the week I happen to be there, we have great karma for meeting each other there. But they do their ACI course materials. So if you're ever wanting to ask questions or wanting to get further along with your homeworks, that's a really great thing to do, is to do it with somebody else. And I know they're always welcoming anyone who wants to drop by. There used to be another study group at Kafka, but I think that was led by Hillary, who now has a beautiful baby who's her major study right now. So yeah, she's gorgeous.
We saw her last Sunday.
But yes, all of the course material is available for free online, and all the readings are there. There's exquisite notes that were taken by the original class, actually by one amazing man named John Stillwell, who back in the 90s attended all of these classes and took incredible notes and then made them all available. So you get the readings, which are the beautiful English translations from either Tibetan or Sanskrit into English. You get the full class notes, which is like getting a commentary. There's also the original audio that you can listen to of Geshe-la teaching that you can download for free. We always say, listen to the class after you've come to class, but it's all available for free. And then there's quizzes, homework quizzes and final questions, which aren't mandatory, but it's highly recommended, because then you'll really know the material. If you do complete all the coursework and you hand it into any of the group here and you get it marked, it will get sent in and you will get a certificate. And at the end, they keep track. They keep track down in Arizona or New York or wherever they have the database. And everyone anywhere around the world who submits their marks, it's recorded by the registrar, because ultimately this is a teacher training school. Ultimately, this is all meant to. So sometimes down the hall, you'll see a couple of, like John and I both have our certificates for the 18 ACI courses. This is the whole curriculum. And actually, so do Hillary and Fred. That's what my teachers used to call them. We call them Frillery for short. Hillary and Fred have theirs, and so does a lovely woman named Floriana. And we've all done our final graduation exam, which is called a Marok here. But anyone can. You could even take the first 15 out of the 18 courses totally on your own by correspondence, but the last 3 must be taken live. And it's a really, really beautiful way to get imbued in the knowledge and in the wisdom. And then with the homeworks and quizzes come contemplations, meditations. So you cultivate a meditation practice at whatever level you're at. The debate practices are insane, because in 1 hour of debate you actually do the equivalent of 20 hours of book learning. So it's really great way to fine-tune any of your questions, any of your obstacles that you didn't even know you had will pop up during debate, and you can get rid of them. So it's really a cool practice. And then if you are really enthused about all of this material, as you know, Tomoko, the yoga here, like if you add that into it, then it also works on your energy body from the outside in, as you're working your mind from the inside out. And the two work beautifully together to make everything more understandable. Because some of this stuff, you might sit in class and either go, what? Or, I get it. And then the next day it's going to be, what? Or, it's like that. It's just our karma shifts, right? From day to day. So, but this whole ACI curriculum is set up to give us every chance at getting it. Yeah, it's pretty cool. And it's all free. So, although donations are gratefully accepted to help keep everything going. But yeah, so thank you for coming.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Let's dedicate.
Other side. Okay. Sashi
Puki Juxing Me Tok Tram
Riva Bling and De Gampadi, Sange Shindu Mingte Uwargi, Drokun Namdak Shingla Chipar Shok, Idam Guru Ratna Mandala Kam Niryatayami. Can I do a different tune?
Well, actually, you know what? We did the wrong one. We dedicated, or we asked for the teachings all over again. You just want more teachings, don't you? Sashipuki.
Down here.
Oh, sorry. Did you do the Sashipuki, or
I
did you
did-
do
I
the
did.
Sange?
No, I did not. I did. They are the
Because
same.
we didn't do the Idam Guru Ratna Mandala Kam Niryatayami.
I did.
Let's start over.
Okay. Sorry.
Sashipuki, Tukshi, Meto, Drab, Rira, Blingshi, Yande, Gyapadi,
Sange
Shindam.
What
Sorry.
part is wrong?
I'm
Oh.
wingy. No, you're right. You know, as Umse, you're allowed to stop us and start us whenever you want.
Okay, I'll just keep going. Idam Guru
Mandala Kam Niryatayami, Kevadi, Kewoku.
I thought it was a different tune,
You can do it with the same one.
but I know I hear it.
If you want to do it with the other one, we should do the whole thing with the other tune.
I don't know.
Sashipuki, Tukshi Meitok, Drum Rira Shi Nyande Gyempadi, Sange Shunan.
I can't switch it for this one, but I can switch it for this one. Ah, okay.
Let's start over in English. Let's do it 3 times.
We get to practice all of it. Okay, here is the grater
Yes.
filled with the smell of incense,
Covered by a blanket of flowers.
The great mountain, the 4 continents, wearing a jewel of the sun and moon. In my mind, I make them paradise of a Buddha, and I offer it all to you. By this deed, may every living being experience the pure world. Idam Guru Ratna Mandala Kam Niryatayami.
Beautiful. Do you want to do the last part in Tibetan in the song?
Iwadi Kewokun Sunam Yache Zontokshin Sunam Yache Lejang Wei Dampakuni Troparsho.
Beautiful. Thank you.